in one of my alchemical readings of modernity is that electricity is a kind of element in the old sense of element, and that it has certain properties that evolve as you develop almost a shamanic relationship with it, in the sense of using it and developing a relationship with electrical potentials. And that sets up that interjects a kind of life into the human organism that fundamentally changes it, because it's introducing this element of electricity which has certain properties of communication. I mean, electricity is very strange. It's pretty far out stuff. You just laid out like electricity to somebody and just kind of said, these are how these fields work, and they're not actually da-da-da-da. It's like total science fiction. We're just sort of used to that story. Right. It's an amazing thing, and those potentials are being then introduced into human communication. So that fundamentally changes them, and I think spiritualism is like a reflection in the archetypal imagination of modernity about the kind of communication that is introduced by electricity.
Interesting. It's sort of, McLuhan had this idea about the third person of the Trinity, the Holy Ghost, was electricity, and the covering of the earth by the matrix of the Holy Ghost had initiated the third world age and all this.
Right, and that picks up a line of thought that's been carried through since it first starts. I mean, the idea of electricity is born in an alchemical imagination. It's born at a point to the sort of Royal Society break, or whatever you want to call the genuine scientific transformation that split alchemy into this shadow realm of culture. But it comes up in that alchemical matrix.
In Mason-Dixon, there are scenes in Philadelphia in the 1770s in coffee houses where electricity is being sold as a drug. You pay your money and then you grab onto this thing and they rip this thing around until it throws you off, and you pick yourself up off the floor and then go back and pay again and get more. Just this insane scene.
It's funny to say, but you look at 20th century science, and even though its story has nothing to do with alchemy, that it really is this kind of fulfilling of visionary notions about the way that matter and energy and mind could be stitched together.
Well, and it turns out it's all true. I mean, what 20th century science proved is you can actually do almost anything. And so, you want to change lead to gold, you want to create life, you want to store information in crystals, all these things. It's now come to pass, and much, much more besides, proving that matter is really magical material that you can pull off all these tricks with.
So what is it about the alchemy that really kind of got you?
The surrealism of it, the shifting imagery, the associational, the associational schemas are very attractive.
They are. What do you think's behind them?
Well, the basic concept is that somehow intuition and nature are reflective of each other. Until that hypothesis fails, we should probably hang on to it. Because look how far we've gotten. I mean, it is really bizarre how much of nature the human mind seems to be able to understand. I mean, my God, instruments are circling around Ganymede based on some guy in a powdered wig looking out his crenellated window, figuring out this shit. How did they pull that trick off?
Well, that gets that whole thing about the sort of destiny of technology, or the way that it's
Yeah, it's like a white cane, and you're just feeling forward into the universe, what is it all leading toward?
How do you, in your own head, have come to, let's say, reconcile those two sides? The side that's mystical or fascinated by these questions of the soul, or the things that are beyond reason, and the intuition, and the way that you relate to reason, at least as it's it sort of expressed through a certain kind of skepticism and a certain kind of love of science.
Well, I still believe what the angel told Descartes, which is, nature is understood through the coordination of measurement and proportion. So really, nature is the study of proportion and the making of measurement. And there doesn't seem to be any problem in any... We have very powerful instruments for taking measurements, and very powerful instruments now for modeling and constraining the data, and we're making progress. I mean, I think, in terms of stuff like the internet, human longevity, recovery of energy sources, and all this sort of thing, that humanity is probably in great shape for the next 100 years, if anybody gives a shit. But that kind of time scale.
So you're not as sort of overwhelmed with a kind of dystopian scenario, which is obviously an easy thing to do when contemplating the future?
Yeah, I think that dystopian in the sense of losing control of primary processes inside civilization, and so having like disease, fascism, economic breakdown, problems like that.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty high faith in systemics.